Ready to retire at 40 with a $2 million portfolio? Well, I know it's possible because people have done it, namely Christina and Ammon Browning. They were able to save over $2 million in just 8 years, and now they share their journey on YouTube at Our Rich Journey. I think they are a great inspiration for a lot of people, and they have a lot of really good advice. So I wanted to kind of take that piece of their story, retiring at 40 with $2 million, and break it down for you so that you can retire early if you want to at age 40 with a $2 million portfolio. I was able to quit my corporate job at age 36 and have about half of what they do at age 40. So being able to see the things that I have done over time and learn from my mistakes, I can see how this would easily be possible if I would have done a few things differently or even just done a few things earlier. Let's talk about the things that you'll need to do in order to retire at 40 with a $2 million portfolio. I'm Tiffany Thomas with wealthytiffany.com. Hit that like button and the subscribe button to get more information about building your wealth to become financially free at a young age. And let's dive right in. All right, let's talk about the things we need to do in order to be able to retire at age 40 with a $2 million portfolio. And like I've mentioned before, retire to me doesn't mean just sitting on a beach and lounging around all day. But retire to me means I get to spend time on the things I want to be spending time on without worrying about money. But I would be doing those things because I wanted to be doing them, not because I needed to make money in order to pay the bills. And originally I thought about sharing just a calculator with you guys that shows exactly how to retire at age 40 with a $2 million portfolio. Which is fine because we need to know the math on exactly how this could work. If you start with $6,000 in your investment account, you get a 10% rate of return and you contribute $1,252 every 2 weeks for 20 years. Then at age 40, you will end up with just over $2 million, $2,108 to be exact. So there is the math for you. And if life is simple, then you can just contribute that $1,252 every 2 weeks and have your $2 million portfolio at age 40. But as I'm sure you have gathered, life isn't quite that simple and doesn't go quite as smooth as we would like. I want to teach you the principles that are going to get you to retire at age 40 with $2 million. If we are able to focus on the principles that will actually get us to that $2 million at age 40, then we are more likely to do that rather than just seeing a number up there and saying, okay, I need to invest that every 2 weeks. And if I miss a week, then it's not going to happen. As the 80-20 rule states, 80% of our outcomes actually come from 20% of our efforts. I want to focus on what is going to make that biggest difference. What is that 20% that we should be focusing on? And the first one that I want to talk about is debt. I don't really talk a lot about debt because it's pretty simple to me. Stay out of bad debt, and if you are in bad debt, that debt that isn't making your money work for you, then get out of debt. Sure, there are debt consolidators or debt consolidation plans that you can set up, or there are strategies like moving all of your debt to an interest-free credit card, and there's all different things that you can do, but here's what it comes down to. If you have debt, pay it off. If you're just moving your debt around and not paying it off, then your debt is going to stay there. So pick a plan and stick with it and just pay off your debt. I don't really like to focus in on debt. People have a really bad connotation associated with debt. The way I like to look at it is, okay, I have this debt. Well, if I pay it off, it's going to increase my wealth. So I'm focusing more on building my wealth and not getting stuck in the, oh, I have so much debt and I don't know what to do about it. It's more about, okay, I know I have this goal to retire at 40 with $2 million. How can I get there? Well, I need to start with my debt. I need to get rid of that, pay it off so that I can increase my net worth, my assets minus all of my liabilities. And once I do that, I can continue to see that net worth grow over time and eventually turn that into $2 million. Here are a few principles that I have applied in my own life to stay out of debt. And I'm talking about bad debt, debt that doesn't help you make your money work for you. For example, if you are investing in real estate like I do, then you're probably thinking, okay, I want to put a small down payment down on a house and then take out a mortgage loan to help pay for the rest of that house, and I can pay down the mortgage over time. And that way I have extra cash over here because I didn't put that toward the entire house cost. I can take that money and put it toward another house, another down payment on a house, and have a mortgage loan and kind of create that cash flow from those two properties and pay it off over time. In that case, those mortgage loans are still debt, but they are helping me make my money work for me. So I'm not considering that bad debt. Let's talk about credit card debt because this is a huge one. So many Americans are in a ton of credit card debt, and these credit cards have super high interest rates. So they will continue to pay off their credit card for I don't know how long. It could be indefinitely. For me, I never put something on a credit card that I couldn't pay off in full before it started accruing interest. And this has been my policy for my entire life. I do not believe in paying credit card interest. I do not believe in paying so much more for whatever it is that I was going to put on my credit card because it wasn't worth it to me to pay that extra interest, that extra money. It amazes me how many of my friends actually put things on credit cards that they can't afford to pay off within that certain time frame before it starts accruing interest. And they just say, oh, I'll pay it off over the next couple of months. After I get a few paychecks, I'll be able to pay it off, no problem. But then you know what happens is something else comes up, another fun vacation that they want to take. And they think, oh, well, I could put this on my credit card too. So maybe I don't pay it off in 2 months. Maybe, I'm going to pay this off in 4 months. And the interest starts accruing, and they continue to think like this over time. So that one initial purchase that they decided to make that they wouldn't be able to pay for turned into another one and another one and another. And they're continuing to pay off their credit card. And they're paying so much more for those experiences or their things that they bought than they originally intended because of all of this credit card interest they are paying. And if you continue to do that over time, you will never pay off your credit cards. And that's a really scary thought, to have credit card debt when you should be retired. So if we never start with that, very first purchase, then we will not have to worry about the chains of credit card debt. And if you already have credit card debt, then make it your policy now and going forward to never make a purchase unless you can pay it off in full and whatever is already on your credit card. Hopefully I've made myself clear that if you don't have enough money to pay it off in full, then don't make the purchase. It can wait. All right, let's move to the next debt that Americans have, and this is student loans. A lot of Americans are in student loan debt, and of course, we don't actually want to get student loans if we don't have to, and I was able to do this while I went to college, even my undergrad and my graduate degree. I kept my expenses as low as possible while I was going to school, and I applied for scholarships. I should have applied for more scholarships. I got one, I think it was just my first semester, and it paid for, I think, half of it, and then my parents did pay for the other half of my first semester, if I remember right. So I should have applied for more scholarships, but I didn't. But what I did was work while I was going to college, and that's how I paid for college. I also was able to live at home rent-free. My parents were nice enough to let me live there while attending college and not pay rent. I know that's not an option for everyone, but you can keep your housing costs really low. You can have roommates or live in the dorms. So just be really conscious about what you are spending your money on. I also chose a university that was not that expensive, and they still had a really good business program. So I felt good about attending that university. Really think twice before you choose a really expensive school to go to. And I know there are certain degrees where it really does matter, but a lot of degrees, it doesn't really matter. The businesses only care if you actually got a degree. So be careful when you are choosing how much you're willing to spend on going to school, because that debt can really hang over your head for a really long time. Also, I graduated early. I graduated in 3.5 years instead of the 4 years that it normally takes for an undergrad. So I didn't end up having to pay for the very last semester because I graduated a semester early. Also, I did that with my MBA, my master's degree. I chose a university that wasn't that expensive again, and they had a master's program that was a 2-year program, but you could take as many classes as you wanted to within 6 months and still pay the same rate. So I ended up graduating in 1 year instead of the 2 years that it normally takes. So I shaved off a year's worth of school payments. And yes, I was working full-time while I did this degree. You've got to make your own priorities and stick with them. It was a priority for me to graduate early from my master's program. I would get up early before work, before going into my full-time job, and I would work on Saturdays doing schoolwork and after my 9-to-5 job during the week. So I didn't have a real big social life during that time, but it was a priority to me to get that degree sooner than the 2 years. And it's not like I didn't do anything fun. I was actually able to take a trip during that time, and I can't remember if it was my Italy trip or my trip to Paris, but it was one of those, and I was able to take a trip during that time frame. I just organized it so that I had all of my schoolwork in before I left on my trip, and when I came back, I had a lot to do, but it was a priority for me to take a little vacation during that time, so I did it. Okay, let's talk about the next debt that is really popular among Americans, and this is a car loan. And this is one that I did okay with during part of my life, and then not so okay with during another part. So I was fortunate enough to have a car when I was in high school and college that my parents had bought for my sister and I. It was nothing to brag about by any means, but it got me from point A to point B. So I drove that car for a while, and then my parents ended up getting a new car, so I took their old car for a couple of years. So I was fortunate enough not to have a car payment while I was attending college. And once again, I realized that is not possible for everybody, but you do not need an expensive car, especially while you are attending college. It just needs to be a car that can get you to and from the places that you need to be. And you know what? You may not even need one. If you live on campus, you can take the bus if you're going somewhere else. Or there's also Uber or Lyft. But if you don't have a car payment, you can really save a lot more money. Once I graduated from college, I ended up buying a Toyota Tacoma, and I really loved that truck. And I drove it for 10 years, and I even paid off my loan early. So I didn't have a car payment for a long time, which meant I had more money to invest if I would have been investing more then. Going back to that 80-20 principle, if you don't have a car payment, which is one of the larger expenses for most Americans, then you can put that money toward something else, like investing it to create that $2 million at age 40. Later in life, I bought a brand new car, which was not the best idea, but I thought, well, I'll just drive this car into the ground. I'll keep it forever, which was my plan, and I had seen myself do that before with my Tacoma that I had for 10 years. So I planned to keep this car for a really long time. Unfortunately, my car got totaled when I wasn't even in it, and if you want the full story on that, I will leave a link to that video above and below in the description, and you can check it out. That meant I needed to buy a new car, and this was actually one of my worst financial mistakes. So I go over the details in that same video that I just mentioned. The next type of debt that a lot of Americans have is mortgage debt. Unfortunately, people buy houses that they really can't afford. They become house poor. Their mortgage payment is too high, and that is not the way to do it. So when I purchased my first property, I came up with what I wanted to be spending and not what I could afford or what the bank told me I could afford to be spending on my mortgage. I didn't want to go over a certain amount. I didn't want to be house poor. So if you are looking to buy a house, figure out what that number is for you. How much do you really want to be spending on a mortgage payment? And don't go above that. This is a huge purchase. And if you're spending more than you can actually afford or want to afford, you are going to be in big trouble because this is usually a 30-year mortgage. And if you have to pay for something over the period of 30 years that you can't really afford, everything else is going to be strapped super tight, and you are not going to be happy. A lot of people look at their house as an investment, and sometimes if it appreciates enough when you are ready to sell, it could be considered an investment. But honestly, there are a lot of expenses that go into maintaining a house. And if you don't have someone else helping you cover that mortgage payment, it could not be an investment. And I'm not saying don't buy a house because it's not an investment. I'm saying make sure that's your priority. I would love to own a house with my husband and make sure that we would never get kicked out of the house. So I love the idea of owning my own house. So that would be a priority for me. But I'm not looking at it as a true investment unless I have someone that is renting out the basement or a room over the garage or something like that, where it's reducing my mortgage payment or even covering the mortgage payment. Then I would consider it more of an investment. Okay, let's move away from debt and talk more about increasing our positive net worth. I'm going to give you a few examples on the things that I have done that made the biggest difference to increase my net worth over time. Number one is start thinking like an investor and believe that you are an investor. Once I started focusing on, okay, how can I really make my money work for me? Instead of, oh, why did I make all of these mistakes? Why didn't I start this earlier? Or things are fine, I'll just keep with status quo. I have started to see my net worth grow exponentially. I started to think to myself, oh, you know what? I don't need to buy all of these clothes. I can put that money toward another property or something else that is going to increase my cash flow or my passive income. So make that switch to, oh, I'm not very good at investing, or why haven't I been good with money, to where can I put my money that will make the biggest difference to help me retire early? And when you get extra income, maybe you get a raise at work or even a bonus at work, start to think, okay, well, I could put this money toward my investment account and retire at age 40 with $2 million, or I could just buy some new clothes or some new couches. Really start to think like an investor and believe that you are an investor. This will make a really big difference. Because if you're thinking, okay, yeah, I am an investor, then it gives you confidence. Okay, yes, I can invest in a property if that's what I want to invest in, or I can buy this stock if I want to. You'll start to see opportunities open up and you'll start to think, okay, well, if I am an investor, then I should know how to do XYZ. So I'm going to research XYZ. And you'll start to think, all right, how can I increase my income? Whether that is getting a side hustle or getting a raise at work, or even just investing your money instead of keeping it in a savings account. And you'll think, all right, I need to start spending my money more consciously. I need to know what my priorities are and put my money toward those. And then the second thing is to actually take the action. There's people who say they want to do things. Oh yeah, I want to buy a house. Oh, I want to buy a rental. And then there's people who are actually doing it. They are taking the action. So be one of those. Be one that takes the action and not just says the things that they want. Stop saying you're going to do something and do it. If you want to invest in real estate but aren't really sure how, then schedule out 15 minutes a day to research how to invest in real estate. For example, before I bought my first property, I had said, yeah, I do want to buy a place, but I hadn't really taken the action to do that. And once my landlord said that she is selling, I thought, okay, I really need to do this. So I started setting up appointments to go look at homes and to find a place that I would want to purchase. And if you want more details about how I've been able to purchase all of my properties, I created a video on that. I will leave a link above and below in the description. You can check that out. And the third thing is to keep taking the action. Keep moving forward. When I bought my first property, I didn't buy my second property until 10 years later. If I would have bought my second property just a year later or a couple years later, things would be very different now. But I didn't do that. So it's really important that you keep taking the action to move toward your goal of retiring at 40 with $2 million. Once I became more aware of how important it is to invest, I did keep taking the action. I did buy that second property. I opened a Roth IRA and contributed to that. I also purchased a third property and a fourth property. And when I made mistakes, then I cut my losses and learned my lesson. For example, I purchased whole life insurance And when I discovered that was not the best investment for me, I canceled that policy and lost thousands of dollars. But I just cut that loss, and I'm glad I didn't lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. So keep learning from your mistakes and keep taking action. That is what is going to push you forward to reaching your goal of retiring at 40 with $2 million or whatever your goal is. So forgive yourself and realize there is a lesson to be learned and that you can continue to get better over time. And you do that by taking action. And the fourth thing that I want to bring up is realize that you don't have to do this by yourself. First off, I am a spiritual person, so I know I am getting help from up above, and I'm also able to find mentors, people that have actually done what I want to do. And when I bought my first property, I talked to my friend who was successful with real estate, and he helped me buy my first property. And when I bought my second property, I talked to actually the same friend and a boss that I had at work. And I was able to do research online and get ideas from people that were successful with investing in real estate. If you apply these principles, then you will be able to retire when you want to with the amount that you want to. Tell me in the comments below what action you are going to take today to help you retire early whenever you want to with the amount of money that you want to. And if you are serious about becoming financially free at a young age, then check out my free course, A Beginner's Guide to Financial Freedom at 40. I will leave the link below in the description and you can check that out. And if you found this video helpful, please hit that like button and share it with someone else who would like to hear this information. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button to subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the little bell to get notified on when I post new videos. And you can follow me over on Instagram. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.